Okay, so today we're going to talk about rulers, and we're going to talk about ways to prevent your ruler from slipping. So I've got a few different ideas for you. And so I'm going to go through each of the ways that I use to prevent slippage from the ruler. And hopefully you can get some new ideas or new insight as to how different products work. Okay, so let's take a look here at, here's a ruler. There we go. And this one's pretty good. This is Quilter Select, and it does have kind of a non-slip grip on the whole thing, which is pretty handy. But then again, there's something like this that's more clear, see-through, and that it can present a challenge with having things slip. Janet says, grippy. Yep, that's one of the things I'm going to talk about today, for sure. So without any other products, let me give you just a little thought about, trying to help prevent your rulers from slipping. So I'm going to turn the computer around here, and let's take a look at my cutting board. Okay, adorable, right? Our little gnomes. Those are so fun. Okay, so this is what I'm going to just demonstrate on today. Let me get a little bit closer there. And one of the things that happens oftentimes if we're cutting fabric, and if you've been in some of my classes before, you've heard me actually refer to this, is that we'll get ready with a piece of fabric, and we have our rotary cutter ready, we have our ruler ready, and we go to cut, and I'm not going to actually cut this piece today, but we go to cut and we go like this, and what does it have a tendency of doing? It will have a tendency to slip, right? Especially as you get up higher here. And then you veer off this way or veer off this way, and you just want to cry and throw it all away, right? Well, we're not going to let that happen. So one of the things that I do always encourage is that as you are cutting, let me just kind of line this up here, that what you need is actually even pressure throughout. And this is especially important when you're doing, longer strips. If I weren't needing, like if I could fold this, sometimes you can fold it and get away with that. The smaller the area, the less chance you have of it slipping, right? But let's say you have a longer piece and you're trying to prevent it from slipping, then the most important thing to do is as you go to cut, you have pressure right here with your hand, but then you crawl up as you get up closer, and then you crawl your hands up one more time as you get closer to the top. What happens is if your hand is always down here and you're applying that pressure, then that's why up here you'll have a tendency to slip, right? So again, using the technique of having even pressure, again, always cutting from yourself out. Sometimes I've seen people do this way. You don't want to get into the habit of doing that. Your habit is going to be much better when you do it from yourself on out. So again, if I were cutting this, I would cut and I would just take my time, crawl it up, take my time, crawl it up, and there you go. Now, obviously, the more, the more accustomed, the more used to you doing this, then the easier it becomes, right? It becomes a lot more second nature. But there will be times, and I don't know how many of you have had this happen before, but it can be a real, a kind of a scary thing. Have you ever had it veer off and cut your finger? Yep, been there, done that before. And I think a few of us around here have done the same thing. And so one of the products that's out on the market and I absolutely love is the Gypsy Gripper. Okay, have you seen this guy? It's kind of like a telephone. Hello? Hello? Anyone there? Hello? Hi, okay. It reminds me of the telephone. But, you know, some people might say, oh, you could use a shower gripper, same kind of idea, right? But it has these two big suction cups, and this is what our kit cutters actually use. And so if you've never seen it before, what it does is it actually goes onto your ruler, and by just pushing those little levers in place, you now have a really good suction. See that? And so it's pretty awesome because now your hand is up here rather than down here. So you don't have to worry about that cutting you, because you're going to have your hand way up here and you cut. It's going to give even pressure because it's long enough to do that. You're placing this right in the center, and you just place some nice strong even pressure on there, and there you go. All right, so I love the Gypsy gripper. It is definitely a must-have. Like I said, this is what our kit cutters use. I do not allow them to cut kits without this. It's such a liability to have those hands right down there, and so they always use this, and now this is what I'm so used to, and I use it all the time. Okay, so, and especially if you're doing lots of cuts, you know, it's just so nice to be able to pull it up and move your ruler. Okay, so that's the Gypsy gripper. Now there's another product out there called Grip Dots. This is also by the Gypsy Quilter, and these are these little dots. Okay, now some people might say, oh, you could use sandpaper. Yes, I've seen sandpaper dots being used. I prefer not to use sandpaper because I don't want to take any chances of that sandpaper scratching my fabric. So this is like a little silicone dot, and all you do is you peel them off. There's quite a few that come in a package. And then let's say I wanted to add it to this ruler. All I do is just put it right on there. And if you're going to use the dots, I would make sure and do one on all four corners, and I would do one in the center. That way, this is going to have a little bit of a beveled edge, so now it's even all the way across. If I were just to put a couple up here, then what could happen is my ruler will just have a little bit of leverage there. So that's why I make sure, and if I use these dots, I'm going to use them, you know, where it's consistent and even on all the different edges. Okay, so that's Grippy Dots. These are really nice also if you've got small rulers or small templates. Okay, then these little guys work pretty darn well. All right, so that's Grip Dots is what they call them. And let's see, there's 24 Grip Dots in the package, and they're really inexpensive. They don't hardly cost a dime. So the other product that I love, which is very similar to Grip Dots, and I've talked about this before, is Invisigrip. How many of you have used this before? Now, Invisigrip is just like the Grip Dots. However, it goes across the entire ruler as one. So a lot of people actually really would prefer this, because now all I have to do is place this on top of the Invisigrip, cut according to the size of my ruler, and now you have a firm, consistent pressure across the entire ruler. This is also invisible, so you still see your numbers and everything really clear. Now, another reason why I happen to love this product, let me turn this around a little bit, is because not only is it going to help you with preventing the slippage, but it also protects your numbers and letters that are on the ruler. Okay, so your letters and numbers on the ruler. So if you've used a ruler quite often, then you know that eventually that little paint starts to chip off. So with using the Invisigrip, that's not only again going to protect the ruler from slipping, but it also protects the numbers and letters on there as well. Another tip I have when applying Invisigrip, because I know a lot of you have it, and maybe some of you have not even opened it yet and it's still sitting in its package. When you do apply it, I actually like to apply it not to the very tip, but just a little bit inside of that, because then that way it's not going to catch on other things. So I go about 1/16 of an inch all the way around, just put them on all my rulers, and it works pretty great. The last product I want to talk about with you today that will help is, and I've talked about this before, absolutely love it, Grippy. Woohoo, Grippy non-slip coating. It's definitely one of my new favorites. It hasn't been out very long, and I'm going to show you a little kind of a little demo, I should say, of why this works so well. Okay, so I'm going to bring you back over here, and let's take a look at this again. So I've got two rulers here. They're both the same, and neither of them have any kind of coating on them. So they don't have the Invisigrip, they don't have the grip dots, they don't have the Grippy. These are just the way they are. And I want to show you something. If you can see this, let's take a look. If I were using this, see how it's moving across my fabric, and it slips, right? So if I weren't really careful, I'd be cutting this and this could slip on me. It's very, very slippery, and it's not moving the fabric, it's actually moving the ruler. So now let me show you the difference. I'm going to shake this up, and I'm going to spray. It doesn't matter which one I do. I'll go ahead and do this one, and let me bring you over here so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, I'm just going to give a really light spray to it. I would do this outside if I were you, but I'm going to go ahead and do it right here and let it dry off for a minute. There's actually, I mean, you don't even realize that it's on there because there's no stickiness to it. And I'm going to do one more layer. Okay, and then let that dry off a little bit. It takes just a few seconds. Okay, now let's take a look what happens. Yep. This is this is actually, and I'll hold on to my mat. This one is actually, there is like no slippage at all with this. Okay, with this, there's that slippage. With this, no slippage. With this, this. Okay, I'm giving the same pressure. This, there we go. So you can see that by having this on, it really does hold on to the fabric more than this. So I hope that that little demo will illustrate for you how awesome this product is. This is non-slip coating, and again, there's really, I'm looking at these, you can't even really tell the difference. Maybe this has a little bit of maybe a titch more milkiness to it. Okay, but it's still extremely clear. I see all of my letters and numbers there without a problem. Okay, so those are just a few ideas for you on being able to prevent that, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.